Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Sunday, July 28th, 2019. Folks, I want to start off the broadcast tonight just to do a little bit of weather real quick. But just here through the capital region in upstate New York, I just received this picture. This is in Clifton Park, New York, just above the Albany area. Now, earlier in Glenville, just about an hour prior to this storm, maybe about a half hour actually, there was damage reported from this particular storm that kind of grew in intensity as it moved through Schenectady and through Albany. And Clifton Park is not too far away from where I'm at right now. So I go through that area on a regular basis. This is a current look at our radar. And I'll point out real quick, this storm just came out of nowhere. Started back here. And as it came through the capital region, Schenectady, it really began to grow. This thing has kind of held its own since the beginning. Here it is right here. And since the last few minutes, you've seen that storm continues to intensify. And then here on the last frame, this might have something to do with just being finally storm running its course. But these pop-up storms have been occurring pretty much all day today in the New York upstate region. Let's zoom out as we have another big line of storms heading past just south of Syracuse as we speak right now. And Binghamton, you're next as far as big time storm activity. Now, by the time this cell makes it to the capital region, this could be round two for you folks. By the time this gets there, though, with the sun going down, we shouldn't have as intense of thunderstorms. But I just wanted to lead with this right here. Me going through this area on a frequent basis. A friend of mine asked me if this was a tornado. My guess is going to be no, that this was just some really serious straight line winds. It appears that some of the shingles and everything else are intact on roofs everywhere. So this just could have been a combination of some very heavy rain in a very short period of time, saturating the ground, and then straight line winds. As I said, this storm continued to grow as it moved through the Schenectady area. Which it also took down trees and power lines, and lots of businesses had to close up early from what I understand. So, all right, so let's get back into the GrandSolarMinimum.com, where we have everything lined up for this evening's show. Again, thank you all for tuning in tonight. Our space weather report is here now, 349 even for the solar wind speed with a density of 3.7. Our KP indices are sitting at a 1 with a 24-hour max of 2. And we don't have any sunspots. Once again, the now days in a row without sunspots continues at 5. And we are looking at 137 days without sunspots, 66% of 2019. Want to note that the TCI has been fluctuating back and forth quite a bit, but only between the 2.76 and 2.83 range. So again, this is low. We were just reporting temperatures between 3.4 and higher when it comes to TC. Actually, we were in the 4s in the beginning of April. So just here in the last several weeks, we have seen temperatures start to decline once again when it comes to the TCI. Let's go ahead and go to the space weather section here at GrandSolarMinimum.com. No solar flares, no X-ray flux, nothing, zero, zilch, nada. And looking at our SDO, we do have that coronal hole that we reported on earlier in last week's show. And this will be Earth facing late tonight, early tomorrow morning. And we will expect to see the effects from this coronal hole sometime around August 1st. Now, just judging by what it's doing right now, which is about what we probably thought it was going to do, not much widening here. So when you're looking at coronal holes, you got to look at not just the length here, but the width. The wider these holes are, the faster the solar wind speeds will be. And this is a large coronal hole. I mean, this will definitely affect Earth's magnetic field, but it shouldn't be anything too crazy. Something around the 550s, maybe touching the upper 580s kilometers per second. Other than that, we don't see any active regions at this time. The eastern limb is lit up, but there's nothing that would qualify for any kind of sunspot activity at the current moment. And let's verify that here as we take a look at all aspects. Another coronal hole situation coming over the eastern limb, and there is a small little spot that I guess you could watch and could be associated with our next sunspot here. I've got the arrow up now. Let's see if I can catch it and follow it. That right there, right at the -90. So when it comes back around, I'll point it out once again. This active area right here could be something to watch as far as our next potential sunspot. But until then, we will just watch it. It is approaching the eastern limb as we speak, so we should have a better handle on this by the time we get to Tuesday's show. Excuse me. Taking a look at TCI, or TSI, I should say. Too many T's and I's here. 1360.6197. A little bit on the decline here. 1360.6107. Again, very small movement, but it is on a slight decline when it comes to the latest readings here with our TSI. Let's go back to the grandsolarminimum.com. Let's start our first headline of the night. Thank you, watchers.news. A deep 6.5 earthquake hits near the south coast of Honshu, Japan. This was reported by the JMA. It hit near the south coast of Honshu, Japan around 1833 UTC on July 27, 2019. The agency is reporting a depth of about 261 miles. The USGS has downgraded it, though, to a 6.3 and a depth of 233 miles. The earthquake did not risk any kind of danger as far as a tsunami was concerned. 193,000 people were estimated to have felt the weak shaking here. And as far as shaking-related fatalities and economic losses, those remain very low as well with this particular earthquake. So glad to hear no structure damage, no one hurt, no one injured, no one killed by this particular earthquake, but still 6.5, pretty decent jolt there. Increased explosive activity at Etna volcano, the aviation code now red here in Italy. Explosive activity has increased again at Etna's new southeast crater on July 27th. The INGV said their surveillance cameras showed gas emissions from the base of the southern flank of the NSEC, indicating that a new fissure has opened up at the crater. The phenomenon has been preceded and accompanied by the gradual increase in the average amplitude of volcanic tremor and followed by small lava flow. And I would read you this tweet here, but I do not speak the native tongue. The aviation code was raised to red. The volcanic ash is currently reaching about 15,000 feet above sea level. Again, not that high to where it's going to be affecting climate, but just another activity session here at Etna. Here's an update, July 28th, 8:15 UTC. The signals from the seismic network show a significant decrease in the average amplitude of volcanic tremor. At the same time, a substantial decrease in explosive activity is detected at the new southeast crater. The emission of a thick gaseous plume of light color remains without significant amounts of ash. Effusive activity from the new fissure along the southern side of the new southeast crater continues. This is from 7:46 UTC, July 28th. Emissions of small amounts of brown reddish ash, which quickly scatters in the atmosphere near the crater. SO2 values were at approximately 15,000 tons per day, with a maximum up to 20,000. There are no significant variations in tilt or GPS stations since yesterday afternoon. So Etna has now made the headlines at least 2 or 3 times over the past 3 weeks. Thank you again to watchers.news for keeping us up to date. Link will be here at the website. And 8 people killed, dozens injured after a series of strong earthquakes hit Batan's Islands in the Philippines. The series started with an M4.2 at about 4:13 Philippine time, whatever the PHT Pacific time, I guess. July 26, followed by a 2.8 at 1917, a 2.4, a 5.4, a 5.9, which was the strongest thus far, and 18 subsequent quakes with the magnitudes ranging from 1.7 to 5.8 over the following 12 hours. The epicenters of all but the 5.4 were located about 8.7 miles of the Batans. The population is about 2,867. The 5.4 struck northern parts of the island and is primarily the cause for the damage and the deaths. And here is a look at where the earthquakes occurred. Surprised no tsunami warnings or anything like what followed. Says here there were no tsunami warnings were issued, but quakes caused considerable infrastructural damage across Batan's region. The mayor said that 8 people had been killed and around 60 others were hurt. The extent of the injuries were not immediately clear, he said. We saw houses shaking. Some of the walls of the houses collapsed and fell on the victims. Some people died because they were sleeping soundly since it was still early, he said. The head of the Batan's Provincial Disaster Response Team said the initial quake, 5.4, severely cracked the bell tower of the island's old limestone church, the 19th century Santa Maria de Mayan, a popular tourist attraction. The tower crumbled down when the second tremor hit the island, he said. Unreal. Some very old architecture there destroyed. And here are more pictures here at watchers.news, giving us the exact earthquakes when they were registered. Lots of 4s and 5s on here, but this region's infrastructure obviously old and weak. So again, plenty of seismic activity, plenty of volcanic activity to report on, just as we seem to get a break from the weather here in the States for the most part. The seismic activity will continue. At least 7 deaths as severe heat wave hits Europe. This is important. I wanted to point this out really quick. Numerous July and all-time high temperatures were broken across Europe on July 25th, 2019. The second heat wave of the year that peaked over the continent, claiming lives of at least 7 people. The heat is now coming to an end, and forecast models call for significantly cooler first half of August. Temperatures across northern France, Belgium, Netherlands, West Germany rose up to 43 degrees Celsius. That's almost 110 degrees in Fahrenheit. On July 25th, breaking all-time records at numerous stations. Tens of towns and cities reported afternoon temperature between 40 and 43 Celsius. Severe Weather Europe reports numerous all-time absolute station and even national records were shattered with a bang. In addition, some stations recorded 2 to 3 degrees Celsius higher temperatures than ever before. So let's find out. I'd love to know where some of these weather stations are. And I've talked to Severe Weather on their Facebook region, and they post a lot of these record high temperature readings, and then they don't tell us that this place right here, let me get the arrow out, this one right here, they'll use this one all day long, and I believe that's a rooftop station, 42.3 degrees Celsius. That's on a rooftop. So there's my problem with these records. And what's even more unfortunate, let's go a little deeper here, severeweather.eu, whatever. Why don't we just, when we make these claims of the temperatures on how high they were, let's just put the name of the station, a link to where we could observe where this station is located. I think that would satisfy a lot of folks. when it comes to talking about these record high temperatures. I know David Birch and I share the same view about this type of situation. We know where the majority of these heat record temperature readings are coming from. And they're coming from airports or rooftops. And that's it. But I thought it was important. I wanted to show you guys, a lot of folks will accuse channels like us not reporting on the heat. Well, we do. And there's a difference, though, on why we report on the heat, because it's not that big of a deal. Even though the media is telling us right here how we've crushed records, this and that. But the truth of the reality is these heat waves are way shorter than what we had back in the 30s and 40s, and even before. And I'll tell you what I mean about that here after this first break. Guys, sit tight. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.